Donna here today with my friend Josiah. I'm telling her about the 5 principles of Pilates. I'm wearing the tiara because it is Tiara Tuesday, and that is what Josiah does on our team, and I've been doing it with her for a while, so it's all good. So the 5 principles of Pilates, they have a system that's different than any other exercise program. So what we have is the first principle that we have is the breath. I'm going to demonstrate why it's different, because if I just ask someone to lay down and breathe as big as they can, usually it ends up something like this. A big chest breath. And so what we're looking for in Pilates is what we call a 3-dimensional breath. So maybe if you place your hands here and inhale into the side and back of the lungs, and then exhale through the mouth. So that's what we're looking for. So why do you care? Why should you care about breathing mattering to you? So I want you to, while you do this, feel the expansion. So it's going to keep the softness in your rib cage, not stiff. You know, you always hear about people cracking ribs. And so really the thing we also want to think about is, you know, the breath, using that breath for more power. And we'll get into that a little bit more later, but really you have to breathe to live, and it's going to help you. This movement, notice how your rib cage gets bigger like an umbrella and then it expands. That's what the breath work is about in Pilates. So we try to inhale on an opening movement and exhale on a collapsing movement. Usually exhaling on the biggest force too, exhaling on the exertion. So that's principle number 1. Principle number 2 is the pelvic placement. So we want a neutral pelvis. Now how do we go about that? Well, I'm going to lay down on the reformer and show you. My tiara is going a bit rogue. I'll have to fix that. So if we look at when I'm in neutral, what does really a neutral pelvis mean? Well, these bones here, ASIS, and the pubic bone, if I lay the heels of my hands there, and then put my hands down, that's going to be mostly level. Okay? The line of my pelvis is level. It would be level. So how do I know if I have a level pelvis? Gosh, the tiara just really, it's not working with the lay down, stand up. I'm running my side ponytail. We might have to.
We can cut this part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Here, let me help you.
Because I'm making it worse.
Yeah, we can cut this part.
Oh, that's the best thing. Gio can cut that.
Yeah.
It's just flailing all over the place. So we.
Yeah. So redo your hair.
Yep. And then we'll just, the tiara will have disappeared, and we can put it on at the end for the final.
Yeah.
For the fitness picture. Okay. So then, how do we know if we're standing if we have a neutral pelvis? Okay. Because a lot of people do a thing like they tuck, which is not good, or they overarch their back for a lordotic curve. So finding that neutral, what your true neutral is, it would really be the same thing. The ASIS and the pubic bone, instead of being parallel to the floor, now they're parallel to the wall. So that's a neutral pelvis. And why do you care about the neutral pelvis? Well, when it's in neutral, it's a powerful shock absorber. So when you're running or using the reformer or whatever you're doing, jumping in life, this is the most powerful position for you, as well as the most, it's going to give you the most shock absorption, which is important. Okay, and then moving up to the 3rd principle, which is rib cage placement. Again, why do you care? So it should be centered pretty much over your pelvis, because the more stable you are as a chain, again, less injury, more ability to generate force in a safe fashion. So when we talk about rib cage stability, what does that mean? Most of the time, it's going to be related to arm movement. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit earlier. So if I go onto the reformer, what I should be able to do with my rib cage placement is when I bring my arms overhead, I don't want to pop my ribs. So we want to think about the fact that the connection to the pelvis and the rib cage, it's our abdominal wall. There's 4 abdominal muscles here. So we want to have an engagement here to keep the rib cage in place, so that when we do like maybe an arm circle or arms overhead, that the rib cage stays in that position.
Okay.
And then moving up to the next principle of scapular, 4th principle, scapular movement and stability. So the scapula has a crazy amount of mobility. Look at this. I can protract and I can retract. I can elevate and I can depress. I can upwardly rotate and I can downwardly rotate. So it's crazy mobile, right? But means we need to stabilize it. So for some movements, for all movements, we want to think about, when we say stable, what does that mean? okay? So shoulders are not hunched. We're in a tension-free position, super important, so that we can move within a safe range while protecting. Because believe it or not, that scapula has one bony attachment, right here. That's it. Yeah. Okay, so then moving on to the fifth principle, that's the cervical alignment. So think of your head, if you had a bowling ball that was slightly forward, and our head's kind of the weight of a bowling ball, or shifted back, so this is called like the military. In Pilates, I'm going to do as kind of a side view, we have a thing called CV flexion, craniovertebral, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. The first two cervical vertebrae are going to move very slightly, and it's going to just very lengthen the back of the neck. It's kind of like this. It's just a very subtle lengthening. Usually drawing a line on the ceiling about 3 feet will help you do that. And why, again, why do you care? So I'm going to show you what I actually saw. I'm not making this up. I actually saw this in my yoga class last Thursday. Someone thought he was going to do a crunch, and his head literally was, I can't even do it. I can't even do it, okay? So what we do in Pilates, we do that little cervical flexion so the head comes with the rest of the body. And, you know, when we do a postural analysis, which is super important, here's what we might see. A lot of times heads are shifted off to one side. They could be tilted, okay? And all of that matters because when you come down here, like we had it happen today in class, and I know you saw that. I had one person who has a very round kyphotic upper back. So when he went to lay down on the floor on his mat, his head was like this. And if we're going to start in a tension-free position, I think we can see it's not that, okay? So in that case, we would put a pad under the head so that that person can actually start in a successful position. So the 5 principles of alignment, the biomechanical principles, are the breath, pelvic placement, rib cage placement, scapular movement instability, and cranial placement.
Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
good. I was bringing, we'll take this part off.
Yeah.
Do you want to put this back on or you want to just skip
Yeah,
it?
so, well, yeah, so we can stop it for, can we stop it?
Let's just, he'll cut it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but I want to take a still of us with it, because I need a
Okay.
picture.
Yeah,
to
you need
post.
pictures. Okay. So let me.
So